Hello and good evening. Welcome into the Frozen Roar, your source for hockey talk, especially centered around the Lindenwood Lions program. Michael White and Connect, Matt Kenyon, Cameron Kober alongside for this one. It's been a couple weeks, but we decided to jump back on because you know what? Hockey season is in full swing and teams have started to put some stuff together. We're excited to talk about all four programs that are part of the Lindenwood family. And gentlemen, we've got another big series coming up this weekend, but before we get to that, let's talk about really the last 2 weeks that were for Lindenwood hockey, and we'll start right off with the big hitter, and that's the men's Division I program. Wisconsin was in here 2 weekends ago, and then a trip up to the upper north of America for a series against Lake Superior State. 4 games in, and your early thoughts on this Lindenwood ice hockey team under head coach Keith Fisher.
Well, first of all, taking care of business on the road. Maybe a little bit of the cardiac cats making an appearance up there with a comeback win on the first night to get the job done. But good to see. You want to see them being competitive, and I thought Lake Superior State was a good winnable series for them. So they went up and took care of business, as I wanted them to do.
Yeah, I would say, I said it many times before, how these 2 games would be like really big games because, this coming weekend you play against Denver. So you want to get some momentum going into that series. And I think 2 wins was a great way to do it, even though, like Matt said, cardiac cats came out a little bit there. But yeah, watching the highlights, I think that they improved on the things they needed to improve on in the defensive end and getting the puck out of there. I know we've seen the defensemen kind of pinch a little bit more than maybe they should, and that kind of burned them a few times in that series. But, with practice and games comes adjustment, so I think we're going to see some good adjustments come Denver. So that Lake Superior series and even playing against Wisconsin, a high team like that prepared them pretty well, and I think that we'll see a good fight this weekend.
Well, and you have to appreciate the bounce back from that Wisconsin series, because game 1, it was a 3-0 defeat, but you really felt that game was there for the taking, an opportunity here or there, and that game completely flips on its head. And then the next night, Wisconsin comes out and does what they are supposed to do. They dominate the game. You get yourself in penalty trouble, and then you just have a parade to the box in the third period where that score kind of balloons to where it was, which is a 7-2 victory for the Badgers. And then you worry about, what is the response going to look like in your next game. And it was good because they got out to the early lead on Lake Superior State in game 1, but then it was back-to-back goals that put them into a deficit, and then they fell behind 4-2 early in that third period. But you started to see the resiliency of this team as they push back, and eventually got a couple goals from Charles Savoie and then Fletcher kind of sealing it with the game winner. It was a great bounce back and really showed how quickly this team can grow off of a loss like they suffered in that second game against Wisconsin.
Yeah, especially for a team with a lot of young or at least new faces to the program. It's a lot of maturity to come together early, and sometimes like a good early road trip can do wonders for a season. Everybody talks about wanting to play at home, which is always good, but a good early trip like that kind of has a little bit of length, but it's not too long, is pretty good to kind of build some cohesion with the team too.
Yeah, you don't want to go down against teams like Denver, so getting that first goal is going to be pretty big, because on Saturday I think they were down 2-0 to start the game, and it's nice to see that bounce back and that resiliency. But when you play a top 5 team in the country, that probably won't happen, because those guys are a little bit better than Lake Superior State, if I might say. But the good news is that the guys that are supposed to be showing the stats are showing the stats. Charles Savoie with 7 points in 4 games. That's, I think, when I looked at it, it was like top 8. I know we're only 4 games in, top 8 in the NCAA total. So if you keep that kind of pace going, that's going to be something big. The CHL guys are showing out, which is what we expected them to do. So tough task ahead this weekend. Stay out of the box, one of my keys to the game. Just stay out of the box, and try to get that first goal. If you get that first goal, all momentum's in your favor, especially at home.
Yeah, and I mean, I think everybody to this point knows what my two keys to the game are for every single game, and that is one of them: stay out of the box. Your special teams got to be special and win your face-off. So that's exactly what they need to do against this Denver squad. I mean, coming into it, their power play is going to be clicking at about a 26% clip right now, 5 of 19. So they kind of got themselves going on special teams in that series. The penalty kill, 6 of 22. They've allowed 6 goals on 22 attempts. So, not terrible, 27% against. So that's a decent penalty kill to start things off. But it is something that definitely needs to continue to be cleaned up, especially, again, going up against a very tough Denver team. And then faceoffs, they're still under that 50% mark. They're improving that slightly. I mean, in that Wisconsin series, I think they did a great job of battling back in the dot. I mean, in that first period of game one, they only won like 30% of the draws, but by the end of the game, they'd actually taken over the lead in faceoffs won. So it's something that can be done, but in this series coming up, going to be vitally important for them to control the puck as much as they possibly can, even if it's just controlling it to get out of their own defensive zone.
Yeah, I mean, Cam, you kind of hit the nail on the head with kind of the overall point is, teams like Denver that are, at the top of the NCAA, ranked 5 coming in once again this week, they're not going to give you a whole lot of room. So, you got to take care of the opportunities that you get. Playing with a lead will be good. Winning the faceoffs to have as much control of the puck as you can will be good, especially for Denver and Lindenwood. This is kind of the earliest I think they've played in a season. Usually Lindenwood's played them more towards December when they've had some guys missing for the World Juniors. Their coaching staff also missing for the World Juniors. So this will be an interesting series to see them play a little bit earlier on too, when Denver kind of has their full lineup with them as well.
Yeah, and Denver has, I think it was in the double digits of NHL draft picks on their team. So I think Wisconsin had about 9 on it when me and Keith were counting that were at least playing. So, these guys, they're pretty good, and especially their defenseman. I think his name's Eric Paulkamp. I don't have anything out right now, but he's one of the leading defenseman scorers on their team, and he's going to be tough to stop. So you gotta get the bounces, you gotta get guys in and just go on the rush. The rush is going to be pretty important when you get the puck in past the blue line this weekend, because they've got pretty solid defensemen. So they're going to have to work around that and then work around their forwards as well. So it'll be tough in that aspect of it. But like I said, the practice, you got to practice. You got to be ready for it. It's going to happen. You kind of got a little taste of it with Wisconsin this couple weekends ago. So make adjustments off of that Wisconsin game, and then obviously Lake Superior. Make those adjustments, go into Denver, and then just put it into play, and let's come home with a win.
Well, looking at it, 14 players on this roster are NHL draft picks. So, yeah, they are absolutely loaded. And it makes sense considering they've won 2 national championships in the last handful of years, 2022 and 24. So they are a very successful program, and a program that, kind of looking at, at a Penn State where Coach Fisher came from is another kind of example of what Lindenwood is trying to grow to. It's a program that it's trying to build up and then be successful at a sustained level by building their roster and their program up. And it's another good test to see what you're up against, what you need to build to, and really how close you are to that top echelon of programs in the NCAA.
Well, even this last weekend, Denver actually tied 1-1 against Air Force, which Air Force isn't on the level of Denver. So I'm going to take that as that's pretty much a loss right there if you're going to tie someone like Air Force. But then the next game, they won 6-0 against Bentley. So they came back and fought hard. So it's going to be a tough series, but Keith Fisher's been in these situations before, coaching against these kind of teams. He's coached this kind of team before. So he kind of knows what to expect. And obviously Lindenwood does too, because we played them before, but we also have 16 newcomers. So trying to get their legs ready for a series against Denver may be a little bit challenging, but we'll see how they go come Friday.
Yeah, honestly, Denver's only played 3 games. They had one exhibition game against UNLV, a rematch from last year, and took care of business in that one. 6-1 win for Denver. Cam, you mentioned their home and home last weekend against Air Force and Bentley. Credit to Air Force. They're I think a team that kind of surprises people out of Atlantic hockey sometimes. Sometimes Atlantic hockey doesn't get all that notoriety as the other conferences do. But yeah, credit to them for sticking with it there. But I want to go back to kind of what you guys were saying, and Mike, what you were kind of getting into with the teams like Denver that are at the upper echelon. I mean, and we mentioned, you mentioned that they won, 2 recent national championships. They come out of an NCHC conference, which is, I equate it to the SEC of college hockey. I mean, it is a battle in and every night. Obviously, Western Michigan, the defending national champions, are also in that conference, and Lindenwood kind of takes on an NCHC swing here as they meet Miami, Ohio, towards the end of the month. So you kind of dip into what I think is the toughest conference in college hockey here. So putting on a good showing in these games, whether you win or lose, I mean, is important for the program, which is also, I think, a big reason, just kind of connecting it back to, the series that the Lions are coming out of with Lake Superior State. I mean, I always, just personally say that, I think the CCHA is a good fit for Lindenwood as they look, to get in a conference. I think there's a lot of mutual things that Lindenwood and the CCHA can offer each other. And it's good to beat the teams like Lake Superior State that are, in that conference. You'll have a series against Ferris State, who's in the CCHA, as well. Those are your only 2 opponents out of that conference that you'll meet this season. But it's good to put up, competitive showings against these programs because, one of the things from a conference perspective that all these conferences are looking for is to see a competitive program. They don't want to bring in anybody that's going to get beat up on night in and night out, because it doesn't do anything for these teams trying to make the national tournament. So to have a good showing against these programs, like I said, win or lose is really important.
Yeah, and I look at this, and I know you say that the CCHA is what feels like a better fit for Lindenwood, but you're playing 2 programs that are in the NCHC as well, and this might be an audition here as well. You might be going out there and likening it to an audition for these conferences because, you don't want to be the one that's chasing a conference. You want a conference chasing you. And again, even if you don't come away victorious in these games, if you show that in year 1 under another new coach that you're still competitive and you might be a couple of years away from being one of those teams that battles a Denver or a Western Michigan at the top of your conference, and you become must-see television, then they're going to want to come after you. And that's exactly what Lindenwood kind of needs to do this weekend and against Miami of Ohio is show up, showcase your program, your facility, everything that's around that, and make the NCHC or the CCHA look at you and go, yeah, we want you in our conference. We're going to find a way to get you to our conference. So it's an audition process this year. You look at the wins and losses, and obviously you want the wins as much as you possibly can. But the bigger picture right now is finding a conference so you can share in the monetary aspect of that as well, because that's really what it comes down to is if you've got the ability to find a way to bring in funds, that's going to help you grow and continue to get better. And you can really only do that by being in a conference.
Some revenue sharing and then a path to the national championship.
Yes.
Not national
tournament.
But yeah, national tournament.
Matt's like 5 years into the future already.
I mean, hey, national championship sounds good, right? That's what everybody wants. But yeah, the national tournament perspective comes a lot easier to you too, because it's, the reality is it's pretty tough for an independent to make it. I mean, we even saw Arizona State a few seasons ago as an independent with all the might that is behind that program, and they were in the mix for the national tournament conversation. They only made it, I think, 1 year as an independent. I have to go back and check that, but yeah, I mean, even for them, it was tough.
Well, we see it too. The good thing about being an independent is that you have choices and chances like this to play these big time teams early on, which you can still do that in a conference. But this way, you also have something more to prove because, like you said, it kind of is an audition to get into these conferences at the same time. And we saw it last year with beating 2 Big Ten teams. So, I'm not going to say that Lindenwood joined the Big Ten. I'm just saying that, like, you can't rule anything out. And any win is a big win against these big conference teams, and you have to prove that you can stay in these conferences. I'm sure CCHA is more of a geographical and realistic goal, but I'm sure the NCAA is still in the sights of it. It's a little bit out there still, but the way to do that is by beating those teams in that conference. So you have to do that. Denver is a little bit harder to play, maybe win those games, so stick close with them. That's a top 5 ranked team. We're seeing also even St. Thomas, how they play North Dakota, right? I think it was North Dakota this weekend, and they're going to be in the NCAA next year, and they played them pretty close, so they've proven that they can play in that kind of conference moving forward. So this is kind of the opportunity that Lindenwood has at the same time, is to just win these games, stay close, stay tight, play your game, prove that you do belong in these conferences.
Well, we saw so many upsets in the first couple weekends in college hockey as well. So it's not like the gap is as big as it used to be. I mean, you're seeing programs that are beating perennial powerhouses, and they're beating them solidly. It's not a fluke goal here. It's not this team made a big mistake and let in a couple. I mean, it's legit. You're getting beat by these teams. So the gap is not as wide as you would think it is. And to your point, Cam, about being, an independent, being able to kind of pick and choose your schedule a little bit more. You can have the ability to play other teams, during what is considered their conference schedule as well. In years past, you look back and you go, man, it's so tough to get into the national tournament being an independent, and it still is. But now that we have something like the United Cup that's going to give them, the independent teams, an ability to play in a postseason format, it does kind of give you a little bit more leeway in choosing a conference to go to, because even if you aren't going to jump into a CCHA in the next couple of years, you still can offer incoming recruits an opportunity to play postseason hockey. And that's going to make it a little bit easier to remain an independent for some of these programs, while also exploring a chance to get into a conference to better themselves and get them a chance to get into that national tournament. So even if they don't make it as an independent, they still know they're going to have that postseason play ability. And that may enable a team or a program to kind of pick where they want to go as well.
Right. And I think too, because let's say in some video game simulation, Lindenwood has 22 wins by the end of the year. And let's say that, they're talked about being in, kind of like how Arizona State was. Mm-hmm. Although this tournament doesn't give you that auto bid into the regional, which would be the next step, it's still a chance to play more games where you wouldn't have been playing seasons prior. But you have to win those games, and you probably have to win them by maybe more than a goal, or at least try to keep it not as close. Because the independent teams, depending on how it is at the end of the season, aren't going to be the teams that are going into the regional, skill level-wise, ranking-wise. So that part of it's going to be kind of tough, but again, you got to get the big wins against teams like Denver, Miami, Ohio, even teams like Grand Canyon who are exhibition games, but you have to win those games. You have to win the games. So in a perfect world, you have to have, to get into the tournament or even be talked about, you have to have at least 20 wins, I would say, if you're an independent school, is what I mean. I think you have to have at least 20 wins to even be talked about. And I think that this independent tournament, again, although it doesn't give them the auto bid, it gives them another chance to play 3 or 4 more games or something like that to prove that they should be in the tournament by beating these teams.
Yeah, well said. I think outside of
I thought you were going to have Matt speechless there for a second.
No, I mean, No, it's yeah. I mean, the only other thing too I'll say is just like outside of the larger conference perspective too, is you have to win your home games, which is something. If you look back to last year, I mean, NCAA wise, and even if you include the Lions' time at the ACHA D1 level, although you get into the situation, it's technically two different teams, two different programs. But if we just want to lump it all together, ACHA history included, last year was the first season that, despite the Lions' overall success, they finished under 500 at home. So the other big picture in this is winning your home games, putting on a good showing for your fans at home as you continue to try and build your fan base up at the Division I level too. You want to send people home with with a good time on their hands.
Yeah, give people a reason to talk about Lindenwood hockey on their way home, and even to people, their relatives, family, friends, whatever it is. Give them a reason to talk about you, even if you don't win these games this weekend, which would be very nice. Like we just talked about winning the home games, at least play them tight, home to a 1-goal game. Maybe maybe they get an empty netter or whatever, but give them a reason to talk about you. I'm not saying do that. Don't fight. Don't have a big old brawl on the ice. And maybe you do that, but no, I would say just give them a reason to watch you and want to come back against. I think we have two back-to-back weekends, so they have Miami of Ohio the weekend after. So give them a reason to want to come back and watch some more hockey against another good opponent, because Miami of Ohio is 4-0. Even though I DJ fan right here, not DJ Cam. I think it's a fluke. I don't know. I personally think that Miami of Ohio is a good team, and they already won more games than they did last year. But I don't think that they've proven that they're going to be what they should be. Is my case. I'm not saying this going into Lindenwood, by the way. This is nothing has to go into that series. I'm just saying that when you play 4 games against those kind of teams, those are the games that you should win. And I think I've just seen too many people freak out about how, oh my gosh, Miami of Ohio should be ranked and all this, Homer fan stuff and all that. But, maybe they should be. I don't know. But I think you have to prove yourself more if you want to be ranked. But I also said to you guys before, I think the ranking system is really weird, because we saw a lot of those upsets this weekend. Those teams barely dropped or didn't drop it. Like Western Michigan lost and dropped 1 spot to number 2. You lost to who they played? I don't even know who they played. New Hampshire or something. I don't even remember.
Ferris State. They played Ferris State, who got a win against them. New Hampshire took down Michigan State though.
And Matt, you were talking about the new ranking system, a couple weeks ago, and how it's changed from last year. I mean, just looking at the top 20 for this week after those upsets, like you said, Western Michigan only dropped 1 spot to 2. Michigan State dropped 1 spot down to 3. But then you see Quinnipiac dropped from 8 to 10, and then Providence fell from 7 to 14. They lost both their games, but again, there's slight movement, and then there's drastic movement as well, depending on how this ranking system is viewing the games and whether they won or lost at home, won or lost at the road. There's a lot that goes into it. So you see it and you go, yeah, okay, well, maybe they're favoring these classic programs and saying, oh, well, they lost, but because they are Boston or something like that, they don't deserve to be dropped. But no, it's more so about the numbers that go into it and all the calculations that I think we're going to have Professor Kenyon in by our next show to kind of explain how all of that's going to work. So yeah, there's some homework for you there, Matt.
Yeah, you're not getting that. I mean, I'll be honest. I was reading about the new rankings system and all that. I know it factors in home games a lot stronger from what I've read. I think compared to the pairwise, but number one, I think I said this on one of our first shows. If anybody said they understood the pairwise 100%, they're lying to you. They have some beachfront property in Arizona as well, because nobody. I don't know. The same thing with this ranking system is like I've tried to read about it and gather as much info as I can. But man, I don't fully understand it. I know bits and pieces of it, but a lot of those teams that did lose were playing at home. I think all of them were at home.
That's the part I don't get, is that they lost at home to these teams. That's why I'm like, I feel like I'm not, again, what you said, I'm not saying that they should have dropped out of the rankings completely, but when you're the number one team in the country and you got your banner night spoiled, by the way, by Ferris State, I think you should drop to 7 or 8. I know it's all statistic and whatever. I understand that. But I'm just saying, from a fan experience, I think that being number 2 after losing to, I'm not going to put Ferris State down when I say it, but losing to a team like Ferris State, when you should be national champions this year because you're ranked number 1 going into it, I just feel like you should drop more. I don't know. That's just me, though.
Well, you see it all the time, though, and I think Matt and I have talked about this before, that you get into, and it's not just hockey. It seems like every sport, whenever there's something that is out of the ordinary before a game, the feeling is off for the team that's somewhat being celebrated. I mean, we've seen it every banner raising night in any sport, or any night that somebody unique is honored, or anything like that. The routine is broken, and some teams cannot get back to where they would normally be at because that routine was broken by something celebratory. They're a little bit high on themselves, and they're like, yeah, we won the national championship this year. Yeah, we can't be beat. And then somebody comes in and kicks them in the teeth, and they can't recover. For Western Michigan, yeah, they got kind of kicked in the teeth, and they lost that game, but they have a pedigree that they're gonna bounce back. Some other teams can't do that, and I think that's part of the reason why you don't see some of these teams drop, not just in hockey but in other sports as well, because they have a pedigree of being able to respond to that. And even if there's a formula that's involved in it, there's other factors that go into it as well in some of those other polls. But I every time I've been a part of or seen a banner raising night, a celebratory jersey retirement, any of that, trust me, I've been to enough Blues jersey retirement games to know that you're not scoring more than a goal and you're going to get blown out like 7-0. I remember the Brett Hall retirement night. So it's just something about it with that breaking routine that you see it more and more often, that, when there is that celebratory pregame, you're not going to get the game you expect.
Yeah, usually those kinds of extended pregame like ceremonies, for whatever reason, like you're saying, Mike, is they seem to be stacked against the home team in that. I mean, it's so weird to think about, because both teams are, going through the same amount of time that it takes for those ceremonies to take place. But I think it's more so that like the team that has that kind of like home opener or championship celebration or retirement celebration, like, has to be out on the playing surface or whatever, and kind of participating in that, whereas the other team's kind of just chilling in the locker room for a few extra minutes, so you can still kind of go through more of your pregame motions a little bit more extensively. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. There's various reasons, and like I said, the computer system for the new NPI, I believe it's called. I mean, I'm not sure on all what it's taking into account, beyond some of the basics that I've read, but and the other thing is too, there's not going to be a perfect ranking system, whether it be computer or human. We've seen with some of the ways that teams get put into the regionals come tournament
BCS.
Yeah. So there's never going to be a perfect ranking system too, but and for some of these teams like Ferris State, like Clarkson, that beat Penn State.
Shout out Noah Houle.
Yeah, Noah Houle, former Lindenwood defenseman from last season. I mean, those teams are well, Ferris State's going to go through kind of a rebuild in the first year under Coach Riley, who came over from LIU and took a lot of Sharks with him to Ferris State. LIU independent-wise, has been one of the top independent teams, the last few years with him at the helm there. So I think, he's going to build that program up and kind of back into the mix within the CCHA too. And then Clarkson is always a tough team out of the ECAC over there. I mean, ECAC gets going a little later with a lot of the Ivies in it, but it's a pretty formidable conference that I think talking about the NCHC being the SEC of college hockey, in my opinion, the ECAC I think might be one of the most underrated conferences in college hockey, or maybe even is the most underrated conference.
I can definitely see that being the case. I mean, it's not one that's talked about as much as it probably should be, and yet they tend to put out a lot of high quality teams for sure. Getting off the conference talk, let's get back in a little bit to the Lindenwood program here a little bit, and going into that first series with Wisconsin and then seeing those first two games being played, you're wondering what kind of impact some of these CHL players were going to have on the collegiate level. And I think we saw guys like Savoie and Louis Philippe Fontaine and Morneau and all them. There was a little bit of feeling out, maybe even a little bit of reluctance in some cases. We saw a little bit more passing than shooting when, the CHL is known for guys that will shoot and score a lot. But this past weekend, it looks like they kind of got that confidence to do what they're used to doing. And they put up some big points. I mean, as you see in our ticker down there, Savoie had a big weekend as well as Morneau, and they now sit at the top of the team stat total. Savoie 2 goals, 5 assists. Morneau 4 goals, 2 assists. 3 of those goals came this weekend for Morneau. So, what is your impression on the impact that these players have made early in the season, and where do you think they're going to end up by the time this year's over?
Yeah, I mean, Giovanni Morneau on a 3-game point streak, Savoie in there as well. Again, I know we're shifting away from the conference talk, but if you're in a conference, that's player of the week type of stats right there that you just put up. So I do know the independents are going to do some end of season awards. So I would imagine those guys are already starting to put themselves in the mix for some sort of independent award at the end of the season. Because if you keep producing at a point clip like that, that's something special.
Well, speaking of end of season too, I think that the CHL guys that you have right now, you have got to keep going into the next season, which I think is something that we can really count on this coaching staff, especially Keith Fisher, to do. I think that if they got him here, they can keep him here. That's my kind of thing. As long as there's no, changes in the middle of the off season like there was. But like we were talking about, though, the point clip they're producing at is what I kind of expected from a guy like Savoie, because looking at his track record, I think he was the one that won the Memorial Cup with former Blues Zach Wilduke, actually. So and he got that. Yeah, that's I have my thoughts on that trade, but that's for another time. But it's nice to see these guys scoring. I thought, obviously, the first game, like you guys mentioned, it was kind of like a feeling out process. It felt like, especially against a team like Wisconsin, you probably don't need that feel out process. You just need to go. And so I think watching the highlights in that Lake Superior series, we saw them. The mentality was really to shoot, and we saw that from pretty much everybody. So I wonder if that was kind of a topic of discussion and practice and leading up to the game in the locker room. Because even Adam Raisler, 2 goals in the Saturday game, I think it was, and that put him up towards one of the leading point scorers in the team. So just it takes one game for someone to come up and rise like that. I want to see Olivier Hood get a goal, because I think he's had so many chances. He had a beautiful pass. I don't remember who it was. It was in the first game. I think it might have been to one of Savoie's goals or one of those. Either way, it was like a backhand pass, but he already faked the goalie out, and he's kind of at the red line of the goal line, and he passed it back. It was just beautiful. So and that's the reason I can't get it right. So it's kind of distracted by the Lake Superior broadcast getting all the names wrong. So sorry for that little dig at them. It was kind of distracting, but it was a good series. And when you go into a team like Denver, as I've talked about earlier many times already, that your mentality is going to have to be shoot first. If you have that chance 15 feet from the goal, I know you got a guy on your right who's probably can one-time that. Just shoot the puck. Just shoot the puck. You need pucks on that because you got a guy there already. Get that rebound if you have to. Pass off pad, kind of 2-on-1 break kind of thing. Just put the pucks on net. Pucks in deep, as they always say. Pucks in deep, pucks on net. And then also getting out of the defensive end is going to be something that's going to be pretty important. So I think we struggled with that against Wisconsin, was getting out of the defensive end and transitioning into the offense, which I thought was okay, getting in, transitioning to the offense, but getting out of your own end is something that they're going to have to. I didn't watch the entire Lake Superior game, so I can't comment fully on it, but something they're going to have to work on, just looking at that Wisconsin game.
Yeah, I think the big thing is that you've got going into this series, so the first 4 games, you have 8 different goal scorers on this roster. And yes, half of them only have 1 goal, but that's 8 different players that have put the puck into the back of the net. So you already are seeing more players contributing offensively than you had at the start of any other season. And even looking further than that, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 players have at least 1 point as well. So you're getting it from multiple lines. You're getting it from forwards and defensemen as well. So all of it is starting to kind of click, at least offensively, for this Lions squad. But the one thing I want to go back to, kind of one of the first points that Cam made was, the defense chipping in offensively. And we kind of talked about this, Matt, during that Wisconsin series where, there's a lot of offensive-minded defensemen on the squad. And it's great when it works. When you've got a guy like a Connor Jingle or somebody leading the rush, that's awesome because that's just another layer of offense that the defense has to prepare for. But on the flip side of that, if a majority of your defenders are moving in onto the offensive attack, you're prone to let up those odd man rushes. And we saw it over the weekend against Lake Superior State, especially there on that power play where they allowed the shorthanded goal as well. So again, it's early in the season. You're starting to get into a new system, new players. It's likely going to be cleaned up, but that is something that you're really going to have to hit on this weekend if you're the Lions, is you've got to be sound defensively before you even think offensively.
Well, it's just fundamental hockey is like when your defenseman jumps up in the rush there, you got to have somebody come back and cover that. It's something that's preached from youth all the way on up, and it's just sometimes we've seen those assignments missed at times here in the early going, and I would expect as the chemistry goes along, as guys get more and more experience playing with one another and knowing, okay, player A is gonna jump up here, so I need to fill in his spot on the point, and just having the systems that the coaching staff is employing here, committed to memory more. I think we're going to see those tighten up, but you're right, you do have to tighten them up, ASAP. Otherwise, those mistakes are going to start to bite you more and more as the season goes along. But yeah, offense from the defense is. We see how it works at the NHL level. That's one thing the Blues are doing right now, and it's something that Chicago did really well in their, cup runs in the early 2010s, which is weird to say.
It seems like so long ago, but it was right there too.
Yeah. Yeah, God, that's a rough one to say, but yeah, no, it's a strategy that works because you just have so many different layers as an opposing defense, to be on the lookout for. And a guy like Connor Jingle, I don't think he's got a goal credited in his name yet, but Daniel Hauser robbed him in game 1. He nearly had the first goal of the season for Lindenwood in that first game. And, he's a guy that I expect to see pop up on the score sheet. Nolan Seed is a guy that I think is going to end up on the score sheet with some of his bombs on the power play, especially from the point there. He had a couple really good shots that ended up equaling into goals. But one of those is going to fly and hit the back of the net here soon. So even some of your more defensive guys, and I know in Coach Fisher's post-game media appearance after that Wisconsin series second game, everybody in that media scrum had kind of asked about that freshman pairing of Connor Jingle and Jake Delaney at that time. And he said that Delaney's more of that stay-at-home guy, and Jingle is going to be that guy that wheels and deals a little bit more. So just having those guys paired with their right partners too is also a big help. That again, factoring in that chemistry too. Guys will know when they can leave their positions a little bit more and when to cover and all that. So Lindenwood has always had teams that anybody on the ice can score, and you have to watch out for them. This might be the most active blue line that I've seen in especially recent Lindenwood history. I mean, at the top level at least.
I think last season when we look at that, it was kind of even the season before that, which I honestly wasn't too much into analytics and statistics and watching the game. I was more focused on music, but now I've gotten a little more into it. I would say that the offense was always kind of like a question mark, man, they're just not scoring many goals, or the defense is strong, but the offense is just, meh. And I think going into this year, and obviously with having a lot of new people, that really changed. I think this team is really more offensive heavy than they have been in the past. And that's no, I still want to give credit to the defensemen. But when you do those pinches like that, I mean, it's a 50-50 chance you're getting the puck or you're not getting the puck. So you got to have that guy back, and two guys back at that point who can cover for you. And it has to be a forward if it's a defenseman pinching up. So I do also like that last pairing of Delaney and Jangle. I that's the one thing that I think is big, is building off of chemistry. If you can have those guys around for 4 years, that chemistry that those guys can build up is going to be fantastic, because they do complement their games very well. One's more offensive and one's more defensive. And I think that Delaney in one of the games this weekend had I think I might have said it in our group chat, had 8 shots on goal or something like that. So even if he's stepping up in the play, that's great too, because you need to score goals at the end of the day, but we also need that, his style of play, that stay-at-home defenseman, because I think that I don't want to say that this team lacks that, because they play pretty good in front of the net. I think there could be a little, I'm not a coach, but little adjustments here and there, but that's above my pay grade. But I would say at the same time, like you said, it's kind of taught when you're younger too as a defenseman. I was a defenseman when I was younger. It's a 50-50 chance of pinching, and you have to be really sure that you're getting the puck at that point, especially if you're going to play a team like Wisconsin and Denver, which my point of this is being, it kind of, I don't want to say it hurts playing these kinds of teams early in the year, because you do find your identity and where you're at for the rest of the season. But you don't really get to tune your game up as much as you get to if you play them in the middle of the year. So I've always kind of liked how they played these teams I would say towards the middle of the season, because they've had those earlier opportunities against maybe not so leveled teams compared to them. But you've had that chance. You've had all those practices leading up for months at a time, every week, and you've had those games almost every single weekend. I think it can help you more. But I think the Wisconsin series went pretty well, other than the second game. Obviously, you got to stay out of the box. Lake Superior, I think that was a pretty equal matchup. Obviously, we came out both games, so that was fantastic. I remember I was working this weekend, so I was watching it, and I was following the live stats on my phone. And when I saw that we came back down 4-2, I was like, oh my gosh, I was so happy. But yeah, this weekend will be a tough test for sure. But the good news is they've already played against a team like Wisconsin, and they've had their success against Lake Superior, which I think is a big motivating factor. And also Michael Bevilacqua too, getting a goal. I thought he played pretty solid. I think he has 2 points, a goal and assist. So he got to see some time. I think that's a big confidence booster. So, it's kind of interesting to see how they shape up the defensive pairings going in to Denver, because you might need Bevilacqua's size, but who are you going to sit? That's the question. So we'll see come Friday.
Well, I know Delaney did not play in the Friday game. He did play in the Saturday game, picked up an assist on 3 shots. He was a +3 in that game. So in a game in which it was, 7-4, to be able to be a plus player, and not only that, a +3 player, that is a big, big feather in his cap for that one. And another point for what you were talking about, Cam, speaking of the offense for this Lindenwood team, in the past couple of years, it felt like the offense was opportunistic, where now it seems focused. And that's not a slight on the teams or the players that came before. It's just what you had to go through and who you had to play in the growth of your first few years at the Division I level. And now, instead of trying to just get a breakout and put a goal on, now you're seeing concentrated play moving forward, 5-man units, getting set up in the zone, all of that kind of stuff. So you're seeing all of that come together in the growth for this program. Lindenwood sitting at 2-2 as they head into the Denver series. So before we move on to the women's side of things, got to ask, predictions for this weekend.
Matt, you go first.
I was going to think you. I'll go with a split. I think that's probably a fair prediction to both teams. Score wise, I don't know. I could see them going any sort of way. Say, oh man, I'll say like 4-1 loss, maybe 6-4 win.
Ooh.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be a high scoring weekend because this is no slander against anybody, but I think we've kind of struggled. We've let too many goals in on our end, so I think that they're gonna have to. We just talked about tuning certain things up, and that's gonna be one of the things that they tune up. So I think obviously it is fair to say split. I think it will be high scoring. I think it's fair to say I'm gonna go. I said high scoring. This is kind of medium wise, but I would say 4-3 for a win, and then
That's high scoring for hockey, though.
It is. That is true. It's still 7 goals in a game, I guess.
Yeah.
I'm going to be opportunistic. I'm going to say game 2 goes to overtime. I'm not saying who wins because I don't know. It's over. It's just a tie at that point, but it's just, bragging rights at the end of the day at that point. I'm just going to say game ends in a tie. I'm just being opportunistic. I know. And if we had a big fan base, I would probably be canceled. But I'm just saying.
If we had a big fan base, everybody would jump on the bandwagon and be like, yeah, let's go. Let's do it.
Yeah. And I think that this, at the end of the year, I think we're going to be saying that this is by far the best hockey team that Lindenwood has had in the short 4-year span that they've been a team. They have the offense, they have the goaltending, they have the defense, but they need to stay more defensive is the point. So they just have to, I think once they tune up their game, it's going to be a great series. I'm really excited for it too.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. I mean, I'm going to hate to be the negative Nancy in this one, and I'm going to say I feel like Denver's going to come in and see what Lindenwood's done the first 4 games and be like, we cannot take this team lightly, and they're gonna put forth everything. Because Matt made a great point. When you've played them deeper in the season, they've had guys out on World Junior tryouts or practices or what have you, international play. You're getting the full squad here with Denver, and you're going to really get a chance to see what you're up against. In 2022 was a 5-0 loss, but then a 5-4 loss. So a very close game in that one. They were tied late. Yeah, and they were tied late in that one. And then last year, a couple of 4-1 losses, but I feel like those score lines don't necessarily dictate how those games went as well. So I kind of look at it, and again, new coach, new players, new system. I feel like you're probably going to get very similar feels to these games and probably very similar score lines in these games. Now, would it be great if they win at least one of them? Heck yeah. It'd be another huge feather in the cap. But they're still learning. They're still growing. I feel like this is another one of those series where it's going to be closer than the scores dictate. But at the end of the day, they probably will not come away victorious. So, you know what? One of us is going to be proven wrong, probably. So I hope it's me. I hope it's me. I hope I'm proven wrong tremendously. I
would like to say real quick, by the way, Denver fans, if you're watching, you're not playing on Plager Rink. Just a heads up. You're not playing on Plager Rink. I don't know how that gets out there, but you're not playing on Plager. I just want to give you a heads up.
I think sometimes pictures from Centene just pop up in a Google search, and people are like, "That's it."
They find the worst image they can, and they just go with it. That's how it's always been.
Yep.
Gotta love certain fans. We won't name them, but I think everybody knows who they are. All right, let's jump over to the women's side of things and actually kind of talk a little bit about what we were just talking about with pregame ceremonies. On Friday night, the women played Merrimack, came away with a big 6-3 win, first victory of the season for them. Had a very, very good game from Tatiana Blikova, who ended up earning ACHA Rookie of the Week honors this past week. And it was solidly a very good game. High scoring in the first period. It was a 3-2 Lions lead after one, so 5 goals in that first period. And then they put up a 3 spot in the third as well. But then on Saturday, great event. Having Nicole Hensley back, bobblehead, jersey, all of that stuff. And there it is right there, the bobblehead. Having all of that there could not have been a better play to have on a Saturday. You get an Olympic medalist, you get a 2-time PWHL champion, and someone that really represents your program very, very well in town and present. That's huge. But then we saw exactly what happens when you have a pregame ceremony. Team kind of came out slightly flat and ended up dropping that game 3-1 to split the series with Merrimack. Merrimack put up 3 in that first period. Although a credit to the Lions defense, they shut them out the rest of the way. So you look at that series against Merrimack, I think we all feel like a split was probably the likely outcome from that series anyway. We saw this team building in the last couple series, against Minnesota State and against St. Thomas. Again, score lines don't necessarily dictate how those games went, but you felt like what happened this weekend was coming quickly, and we saw it come to fruition on Friday night.
I'm just bad luck. I am. I was at the game Saturday, if you can't tell. I took the bobblehead out here. But, yeah, my stick fell out here. I
like they put it in
she don't need no
classic
stick.
bags.
She don't need no stick. She can stop everything.
Very detailed. Got the metal on the front, too. But, yeah, that's my comment. I'm just bad luck. Whatever I am. They just need me to stay away from them. I'm bad luck.
It's interesting they put her on the bobblehead in what looks to be the ACHA women's jersey.
Yeah, I think I think it replicates. It's supposed to kind of replicate this image of the jersey.
Yeah.
This one's kind of like a pink one. It has like the breast cancer on it.
Yeah, that was one of the breast cancer ones.
Which is very nice. I like those jerseys. They should bring those back. Pink at the rink.
And Matt now nitpicking good things that are being put forth by the program as well. Oh my goodness!
No.
Matt.
I'm just saying it looks like the ACHA women's jersey. But no, I mean this team needed a win. They really did. I think that first game was a very good confidence boost because we saw against they had a rough go to start it at St. Cloud, go on the road, you get shut out. You come home, you have a very competitive series with St. Thomas, and you just had to learn the lesson of closing games out. So then you go back out on the road against Minnesota State up in Mankato, and you find yourself scoreless after the first game, which is like, okay, can we score on the road? Then you play them to a 3-2 loss again, and another game where you're just right there, right on the edge. You just don't come up on the winning side. So this is a team that needed a win, just for the confidence boost. And credit to them, they went out, they did it, they got the job done. If we go back to last year, winning first games of series was problematic for the Lions last year. So always good to start off the series with the win. And then you're kind of playing downhill from there, so to speak. But yeah, like Mike said, it just didn't go their way on Saturday against a Merrimack team who's pretty good out in Hockey East year after year and play some top competition out there. But yeah, very, very good series for them. Obviously, you mentioned Blikova, who got AHA honors, and I don't think that's going to be the first and only appearance that we see from her and a few of the other Lions in the weekly awards for the conference. But yeah, I mean, same as Cam. All the teams just decided to win when I couldn't be there. So yeah, unfortunately,
I've kept track of my record. I haven't done it for the women's team, which I easily could, and I probably will here soon. Like, I have a record of all the games I've done and what's the record. And I just, for the women's team, man, I already know it in the back of my head. I am just bad luck. Like, whatever I am, maybe it's my music. I bet that's what it is. But no, sorry to kind of cut you off here.
No, you're good. No, I mean, yeah, just couldn't get out of the bank for the weekend there. So, yeah, unfortunately, I had to miss the bobblehead. Mental health awareness night on the first night was also pretty big. Yeah, just felt like Dean Portman when he gets kicked out in the Mighty Ducks D2. Just
you're just sitting outside in your bandana and leather coat.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's a look for me, right?
Oh man. Well,
I'll give my insight on the game since I was there Saturday. Since I just kind of said I'm bad luck. It was the first period was kind of slow and kind of like for the offensive wise, but that second and third period, especially the third period towards the end of the game, we said this for the men's team against Ohio State. If they were like a minute or two longer, they probably would have won that game. That's the same thing for this series. I mean, it was that same situation. All the momentum was there. The crowd was into it. Everybody was into it. It was like chance after chance after chance. They just couldn't bury it. And I would like to say sorry to Keith because he did get this and he left it at the rink, so I took it home. So Keith, if you're watching, you can get it back.
Opportunistic, are you?
Yeah.
Hey, if it's there, I'm going for it.
I mean, I don't blame you. I don't blame you at all on that. So
the sexy bobblehead. Yeah. It's actually really nice.
Yeah, looking at just the stats from that second game on Saturday. 9 shots allowed, 3 goals scored on 9 shots in that first period by Merrimack, and then the Lions defense again limited them to just 11 total shots the rest of the game, while they piled up but 33 in the second and third periods combined. So, I mean, you look at that and you go, it's a moment where they just got goalied. I mean, Adriana Doucette picked up a lot of saves in that game, 42 stops in that game for Merrimack. So it's not, again, like they played poorly. It's they kind of got off to a slow start. They gave up those 3 in the first, but then after that, it was boom, let's get to it. Defense responded. Offense just couldn't finish those opportunities against what was a very, very hot goaltender in that moment. And, Hannah Dodds had 4 shots. Paz Mondi had 4 in that as well. You look at Josie Weeks had 6 shots in that third period. So they were pumping the shots towards the net from all positions. So they didn't wilter in that moment. And that's a huge thing going forward. And again, you look at the stat line for this squad, and we talked about 15 men's players having points. 16 players on the women's team have at least 1 point as well. So they're scoring goals, and that is huge for them. Now it's a matter of, like Matt said, finding ways to either finish games or start games just a touch better.
Yeah, and you mentioned Hannah Dodds with the amount of shots. She had the Lions goal in that game. A player that I thought from last year in her freshman campaign looked really good. She just didn't get a lot of goals in the back of the net. But she's one of the ones that I look at. If the Lions can get her going in her sophomore season and on, I mean, they're starting to build something. Also, one of those Merrimack goals, they scored on their only power play. So a very disciplined game played by the Lions. Just one penalty, 14 seconds into the PK. It's done. But that's what you want to see. A very well disciplined game. It just the one time they got in the box, just ended up in the back of their net, which is unfortunate. Alexandra Servadchenko.
Yeah, I heard that name a lot.
For Merrimack, I don't have a pronunciation guide in front of me, so I that's going to be what it is for this podcast. But yeah, that's a name I'm glad I missed.
Well, one of the names you did miss was Olivia Grabianowski, a former Lion, and she was on the score sheet in both games as well. So you got to think maybe a little insider information helping out Merrimack in this series as well, because she was a big part of the Lions offense last year and obviously big part of the Merrimack offense for this season. So, that's not the straw that broke the camel's back in that second game, but it does help when you have a former player that knows the system and the players to kind of say, hey, maybe we pick here, maybe we pick there for our attack.
I would say, too, that I think it's kind of like the Blues home opener, how the shot, the quality of chances that they had were there, but they just shot it too much in the goalie's chest. Now, there wasn't too many open passes available in these chances, so there was really the only option, or you just kind of have a little more patience and take it back out or whatever. But I just thought that there was too much just right at the goalie's chest that kind of made it a little bit easier for her to rack up those saves and get those shot totals up. But at the end of the period, that's when it really started. Like, that's when the chances really started to come. They were making those passes, those one-timers, especially, Josie was, that's for sure. I didn't know she had 6 shots on goal. I thought it was honestly more than that at that time. But she had a great, strong third period, too. So I just think that throughout the game, and to start for sure, I think to start the game, I would say, is when you really need those shot chances to be there, is when you really need to, get that one-timer or whatever, just not necessarily just flopping it at the goal. I don't want to say flop, shooting at the goalie's chest. You got to create those chances, create those opportunities. One of my favorite plays in hockey is the pass-off pad. Is when you just shoot it goes off the goalie's pad, and it's just right there. It's one of my favorite plays. And when a team does it and the guy's not there or whiffs on it, and I'm like, oh, dang, that's my favorite play. But I just think that the quality of chances are there, but they need to capitalize on those quality chances.
See, I'm more partial to the net front tips. That's my favorite type of goal right there. Matt's smiling because he knows why I said that.
I've seen the footage of net front presence.
I will say this, Matt. That was not in slow motion. That's just how slow I skate.
I thought it was fast motion.
Oh wow! Back to the game. The game. Another thing, again, the thing that I always harp on for games, faceoffs. Lions did great in the faceoff dot on Saturday night as well, 38 of 63 in that game. So they were doing what they needed to do to gain possession of the puck. On Friday night, they were 29 of 56. So still kind of hovering around that 50% mark. So they're doing what they need to do to gain possession of the puck. It's now about finding those quality scoring chances and capitalizing on them. And it's not going to be easy because you're hitting the road for a massive test to open your conference season. You're going up to number 6 Penn State. But as all three of us know very, very well, for some ungodly reason, this team, regardless of who's the coach, regardless of who the players are, they always seem to find a way to play Penn State the absolute toughest every single game. Lots of times it's a 1-goal loss, but it's a 1-goal game usually when you see these two teams play, if not going into overtime. So what do we expect this weekend against Penn State?
Yeah, the Lions against Penn State are what the Coyotes used to be to the Blues.
That's a killer.
It just seems like every game this team just manages to rise to the occasion, and just I don't know, they just surprise Penn State in whatever fashion, and I honestly expect them to do it again in this series, especially because I don't think Penn State has seen a Lindenwood team built like this one. This one is the most dynamic and electrifying Lindenwood women's hockey team that I have seen maybe ever. They've had the pieces. I mean, Morgan Knightsky in her time here, and if we go back further than that, Shara Jasper and Taylor Gerard, and they've had the pieces, but as far as up down the lineup, And this one has lines of players that can attack you and move the puck well and generate these offensive chances. So, again, it's kind of the same perspective as we just talked about with men's hockey going up against Denver. I mean, Penn State, they're ranked number 6. They're going to be a tough opponent. They are your favorite to win the AHA, or at least they should be, year after year. But I expect this weekend is going to be a much tougher test for them than I think they're even prepared for.
In these kind of games, too, I don't want to say in this kind of perspective because this is a conference game, but you really, at the same time, you don't really have much to lose this game because you're going against a ranked opponent. I always say that for the men's team. Like, when you're playing against Wisconsin and Denver, you have nothing to lose. Like, just go out and play. Like, they have everything to lose if they lose that game because, you lost to a team in their 4th year. And, so be it. So like Denver losing to UNLV, nothing to lose there, whatever. But so I think that's why we see these games, I should say, kind of closer than what probably would be predicted from Vegas on the money line. But at that same time, I think it goes to show that they have the pieces in play to win these kind of games. And I think that those pieces are finally starting to show. And I think that they were also added to the team this year. So I wouldn't be surprised if there was a game won here. And I've always kind of said too, women's hockey isn't as diverse as men's hockey when it comes to, when I say this, it kind of sounds bad, but like skill level wise, because a lot of the teams are stacked, is what I should say. It's not really spread out throughout the teams. So, a lot of the top players go to the same school. They don't really spread out and go to some other school where they can probably get better opportunities. So this is honestly one of the games, though, that I think is very winnable because, like you guys have said, they've played Penn State for whatever reason, like really close and really good almost every time they play them. So going on the road is a little bit harder at the same time, but you're also playing in a beautiful arena. It's one of my favorite arenas in college hockey. So it'll be a tough test for them, but I think that this game right here will also kind of set the standard. I know they're a little bit farther into the season than the men's team is, but kind of set the standard of where they're going to be at throughout the year and maybe to go into next year too, because you don't see too many transfer portals and incoming classes affect too much of women's hockey as much as it does for men's hockey. But I think that this game is a real telltale of what we will see the rest of the season, especially because it's a road game too. So what can we see? Home games against Penn State, because they will come here and play too. So kind of see what are we looking at for the rest of the season.
Yeah, they were here last year in January. It was a 4-0 loss and a 3-1 loss. So not necessarily the 1-goal games as far as losing that you have seen before, but still relatively close games. The last time the Lions have beaten Penn State, you have to go all the way back to 2018, but it was on the road in State College. It was a 1-0 victory there, part of a 2-game win streak by the Lions. They won at home in January of that year for 2 of their wins. They're 16-38-6 against Penn State in their history. So they've got 16 wins against them. So it's not like it's impossible, but they are on a bit of a streak right now. They've lost the last 16 against the Nittany Lions. And that makes you look at what you're going to do in net. Madison Botel has started 5 games this year, but Lexington Secreto has appeared in 4 games, which means she has come in relief of Botel a couple of different times this year as well. Secreto, 2.31 goals against average, a .940 save percentage in just 5 minutes less than Botel. So it begs the question, is this her net, or are they still going to split time with these two to try and really lock in who they want to lead this team?
Well, this is DJ Fan here. I would say that Secreto has honestly earned her spot. She's really noticeable with how quick she is. I think she's one of the quickest goalies for the women's hockey that I've seen play in college, at least the college levels, I should say. She's like really noticeable. Like, I didn't know that we changed goalies until I saw the white mask and the pretty nice pads. I like her pads too; those are pretty cool. But I think that she's earned it. And I think when you play a team like Penn State, I know she's coming from Ohio State, but she didn't play too many games there. I think that this is the kind of game that she has wanted to play and that she wants to prove something, that she should have been a starter or backup at Ohio State and played in these kind of games. So I think that it's going to be. I'm sure that it's been a conversation. It's always a good thing when you have to kind of, as a coach, talk about, well, do we start this person? Like, make it difficult on the coaches. That's always a big thing. Like when I coach basketball, it's something we always say. You got to make it difficult for us to cut you in tryouts or to like want to play you, or because you have your top people that are your go-to, but you also want to make it difficult. Like, man, this person's been playing really good recently. Like I want to play them over this person. And I think we saw that also with Jake Neighbors on the Blues, how he's earned his spot. It's kind of tough to put someone like him on the first line when you have a pretty good top 6 guys, but just in that kind of situation, if you earn it, you earn it. And I think that she's honestly earned it, not even stat-wise, but just how in-game, how she's played, and just her quickness. I think that's something that they're going to need against a team like Penn State.
Yeah, I think it's kind of developing into a good 1A, 1B situation for the Lions, because I think Botel has had some great efforts for Lindenwood over the course of the last 1 and some odd seasons now. But yeah, I mean, I think, and that's something we haven't really seen from Lindenwood in quite a few years, is having 2 stable presences in net, like Botel and Secreto are turning into here. And then you have Catherine Hodgins, who hasn't got as much playing time, but I think she also can be a stabilizing factor in that Lions net from what I saw from her last season in her freshman year. So you have 3 really good goalies right there, and 2 of them are just kind of making the case where you can't take them out of the net. That's always a good problem to have, So I expect I wouldn't be surprised if we saw them split the 2 games, honestly. That would be my plan of attack if I was on the bench, but we'll see what happens. I do want to mention last season the Lions did take Penn State to overtime in the opening game of their series up in State College last year. So that was a chance to kind of break that streak for Lindenwood here against Penn State, and it just didn't work out for them.
Yeah, it was a 3-2 loss on November 15th of 2024, and it was a great effort, and you feel like they expended a lot in that game because they ended up coming out the next night losing 7-1. But
yeah,
at the same time, it just shows you how close they are competitively to these types of teams. You felt like that was a game that they could have won and maybe should have won. And to notch that kind of win in conference play would have been huge. It didn't go that way. And then, they ended up losing the next 3 over the course of the rest of the season. But you get a win here, and all of a sudden you are getting yourselves back into a good situation. I mean, right now you're sitting at 1-7, but you're 0-0 in conference play. And that's really what it comes down to is you win your conference and you win your conference tournament. Doesn't matter what your overall record is, you're getting into the tournament in a sense. So
yeah.
like that's really what it comes down to is it's conference play, and you need to make sure that you show well in conference play. You've got a stretch here until November 28th against Bemidji State. You've got all AHA games, 2 against Penn State, 2 against RIT. All 4 of those are on the road. Then they come home for 2 against Syracuse. Then they go to Delaware to face off against the Delaware squad that's new to this AHA as well. And then they come back home for 2 against Robert Morris. So you've got, 10 games there? 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 games to really make a mark before Thanksgiving. And you can set yourself up really, really well, because after that, you've got this 2 against Bemidji State and then just 2 games in December, and then you're off for a month. So you've got a chance through 12 games to set a tone going into the holiday break to come out of and go, look, we're in a good spot. Now let's shock the world in 2026 and go on a run.
Yeah, I think with what we've seen, and I mean, the out-of-conference games have been a struggle for the most part this season. And I do think this team is positioned to be in a pretty good spot at the end of this first half of the season within conference play. Just like I said, with the way they're structured, being the most dynamic team I think I've seen, top to bottom in a long time. I think looking ahead past this Penn State weekend, they can set themselves up pretty solid for what would be a really good first half.
When you have a losing record as 1-7, I know that it can kind of be tough to build a morale, or like I don't know how I want to word it, but to kind of like finish out those games, because the morale can be kind of low, like I was just saying. But when you're in your conference play, and even in any game, you kind of just got to treat it. When it's in the past, it's in the past. You got to forget about it. Who cares about what our record is? Because conference play is totally different. Like you guys said, it's a whole other chance to get in that tournament come conference. So you can win 0 games throughout the year, and you can win your conference, and all of a sudden you're in the tournament. It doesn't matter. You just got to win your conference basically. But at that same time, it does matter, because you got to find your identity and build your team from there. But at the same time, I think it's when you play teams like Penn State, it's a telltale sign of where are we at throughout the year, and where can we build off of that. Because the good thing is about playing teams like this is that you really find your identity throughout it. Where were we good at? Where were our flashes of success, and maybe where did we kind of fail on or need to work on throughout the game? Was it getting pucks in deep? Was it I don't know, whatever, penalty kill, power play, just whatever it is. You can really learn from these games, and I think come conference play, by that time you've already built it up at that point, because they played a pretty strong schedule to start off. It's good because you can learn by that time to, who are we, what's our identity, what works well, what doesn't work well. You have so much time to work on it by that point. That come conference play or tournament conference, you're pretty much set in stone of your identity at that point.
Yeah, and they're really going to be able to see how they stack up against this Penn State team, not just at the start of the season, but at the end of the season, because you're going to open the season against them in conference play, and it's your second to last conference series before the tournament here at home is against Penn State. So really, you're going to be able to see where you're at now, and then you're going to be able to see what growth that you've been able to accomplish when you play them in February. So this is a real interesting dynamic for this squad, because you're in a position of, again, trying to build on what you're already doing with a lot of new faces, and you're going to get a chance to test yourself early and late against the team that should be up at the top of the AHA. And it's going to be a good learning point for this franchise program going forward this season, to see what kind of growth that they're going to be able to see over the course of this year.
Yeah, good measuring stick games, as people always say. Yeah, I mean, it just comes down to the AHA is a very winnable conference. Simple as that. I mean, Penn State is always in the mix to win it. Mercyhurst can be in that mix. Sometimes Syracuse has been up there, although they've kind of fell off a little bit with their coaching change in recent years, but I think they're starting to build their way back up. And then RIT has been building themselves the last few years as well. And then, now you have the Blue Hens out of Delaware. I don't think they'll be towards the top of the conference come the end of it. They could end up in the middle. But altogether, the AHA is a very winnable conference, and you have a team that is built to be capable of doing that. And now you just have to go out and do it.
Yeah, I said it earlier for the men's team. You got to win the games that you're supposed to win. And I'm not saying that the Penn State series is one that they're supposed to win and supposed to win both games is what I mean by that. But you're in a winnable conference, so you have to beat the teams that you're supposed to beat and get yourself to that second seed, assuming Penn State's going to be that 1 seed, so you don't have to play them until the finals, or they get knocked out by some measure of the imagination, which is always fantastic. So,
it's happened before.
It has. It absolutely has. And you need to. Like you said, Matt. It's a measuring stick game. I know they've already played against teams like ranked teams with St. Cloud and all that, but this is conference play. It's a little different. There's just something to it that's a little bit different than playing at St. Cloud. because you're a little more familiar with this Penn State team too, because you played them before. So you're going to need to lead on your veterans a little bit here, which can be kind of hard when you have a lot of newcomers and a lot of people that aren't necessarily been around the NCAA college hockey landscape, because a lot of them are international, which that's not a bad thing when I'm saying that. It actually can probably help them out more than it can harm anybody. So I'm interested to see. I'll be following along on my phone during the men's hockey games throughout the intermissions, and just seeing, what's going right, what's going wrong, because it's a good measuring stick game to see where they're going to be at come February when they have their little rematch against them.
Yeah, those games will be on the Big Ten Network Plus, Big Ten Plus Network, not the normal Big Ten Network. It'd be 1 o'clock on Friday local time and noon on Saturday local time. So we, by the time we get to the games against Denver on Friday and Saturday night, we'll know the results of those women's games. So that'll be that could be a talking point on those games as well. So we'll see how that plays out. And then again, they're on the road. Actually, I correct myself. It's the 24th and the 25th that they're in Penn State. So they get the weekend off, and then it's the weekend before Halloween. They will be on the road to Penn State. So they get an extra week of practice to try and lock in for this matchup against the 6th-seeded Nittany Lions. All right, let's jump over to the ACHA and talk a little bit about the men's and women's programs there. As far as the men are concerned, well, they're picking up exactly where they left off. I mean, and it's not even close to being a drop-off from their national championship winning season last year. They opened up with that 8-1 win against Maryville, and then they went up to Liberty and pretty much demolished them, 17-3, outscoring them in the 2 games in Virginia. So you're looking at this team, and we talked about it the last couple of shows. They're set up to go back and repeat this year, and it's not even like there's a question that it seems like they have the firepower to make it happen, but they're still going out and proving that as well. So just obviously seeing just the one home game so far, but being able to look at what they did over the weekend against Liberty, you look at them and you just go, can we just get to the tournament now and just crown them champs yet again?
Yeah, I actually thought those 2 scores against Liberty were surprising for them. Liberty's always a strong team in all of their ACHA levels, and they're always usually perennially in that top 4 or 5 in the conversation for a men's Division II national championship. So to go out and see the really lopsided scores there is impressive. It's like I said, it beat my expectations for this weekend, because this Lindenwood team, like you said, Mike, picking up right where they left off against Maryville, and I knew they had the tools and the capability to beat a Liberty, but in 2 big games like that, they really showed out.
Yeah, to keep it short, whenever you win a national championship and your team gets better, you have all the recipes there to win it again, but anything can happen at any point. But I think with this team, it's pretty much set in stone that they are the team to beat any game they go into, which can kind of it's a target on your back, especially because you already won nationals, but because you're the best team in ACHA, which the rankings aren't out and they don't come out for another week or 2, something like that. It's really weird how Division II ACHA works, but it was a fun team to watch, as hopefully nobody from my brother's team is watching. But I'll be there on Saturday for the game. I'm doing music and PA. We'll see how this one goes. On the mic. And then, so we'll see. We'll see how it goes. I'm excited. It's fun to watch them because they're a great team. When the top team in the top team in the ACHA, hopefully NCAA by some point. When you're a top team in the ACHA, it's must-see hockey. So they had a pretty good crowd for that home game too. I know it was the first game of the year, but keep that crowd out there. It'd be fun. Kind of makes me a little nervous, but I'll enjoy it.
Well, it's like you said, too, they've got a target on their back. And normally when that happens, you're going to get a program or a team's best shot. And the fact that they maybe didn't get the best shot from Liberty this past weekend and they blew them out the way they did, it's a clear indication to other teams in the D2 ACHA that this is not a team to mess with. I mean, to Matt's point, going back the last, this is now a 9-game win streak for the Lions against Liberty, but in the games before these last two, it was a 4-1 win, a 3-2 shootout win, a 5-2 win, a 5-4 overtime win, a 4-2 win, a 4-3 win, and a 4-2 win. So none of those games were blowouts in a sense. So the fact that you saw the score lines that you did this weekend on the road at that, it just showcases how dangerous of a team this is going to be. And they are putting the entire Division II on notice that you don't want to mess with us. If you come into our arena, we're going to take you out back and beat you. But when we come to your place, we're going to do the same thing. So they're very fortunate that they have a long stretch of home games this year. I mean, you look at their schedule. I mean, it's 1-2 games at Liberty. Then you've got the 3-game Maryville Showcase. So that's 5 away games. You've got 2 at FGCU. So you're up to 7. A game at Maryville, that's 8. And then the Miami of Ohio Showcase, that's another 3. That's 11. 11 of your games are on the road. Everything else is at home. So the fact that you have all of those home games and you've already showcased that you can dominate a perennial powerhouse at their place. I mean, I don't want to put the jinx out there at this point, but you thought last season was special. This season could be even more so.
You're absolutely right, because when you're a team like that, you're going to see the team probably both games, and you're probably going to see the first, second, and probably third line too to roll. But you're probably going to see those lines more than you would against, I don't know, probably if this is a more even matchup. They're going to be rolling their star powers like we already mentioned before. So you're going to get teams, you're going to get their star power, but when you're still beating teams 12-1 with their star power, or whatever the score was, I mean, it's just fun hockey to watch when you're a Lindenwood hockey fan at that point.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, keep in mind, one of the other things, too, we have to take into account with this team is they won't get the auto bid to the tournament. They will have to go through regionals play. So to go out and put up performances like we've seen is encouraging. If they can keep doing that, I mean, they play Liberty again as part of that Lindenwood Showcase. They play Montana State, Florida Gulf Coast, who are always in the mix there. A couple of different times they also meet those 2 teams at the Miami Showcase as well, and then conclude with 3 games against Trine, who's always a tough team as well. If they can keep putting themselves with some good performances against some of these perennial powers that we've seen before, that bodes well for when they go into regional play, in showing that they can beat the teams necessary to get to the national tournament.
Yeah, Trine was one of the just 3 teams that beat them last year. It was Trine, FGCU, and Maryville were the 3 losses that this team suffered last year, and they were able to exact retribution on Maryville to open the season. And then they will get a chance, FGCU, the first time they see them is November 14th at the Lindenwood Showcase. And then they will have Trine, like you said, to wrap up the season in what is actually a very rare, in a sense, 3-game set, February 1st and then the 7th and the 8th. So a very interesting conclusion to the regular season for this men's ACHA program, but a nice way to possibly put a stamp on a great regular season and vault them into another potential long run in the ACHA regionals and the national tournament.
Yeah. And then you mentioned, Mike, to the amount of home games they have. They are technically not truly on the road until November 21st when they go to Florida Gulf Coast, which is not a bad trip to go on in late November. Because, I mean, they're home against the University of Tampa this weekend. Next up, they got the Maryville Showcase, which is just 20 minutes across town. So you don't have to do any overnights there. You're still back in your same, dorm or wherever. You're still getting the home cooking. You don't have to be cooped up in a hotel. And then you're playing true home games pretty much all of November, except for that Florida Gulf Coast series.
Yeah, I mean, you essentially got 5 true road games on this schedule. I mean, the 2 in FGCU and then the Miami of Ohio showcase. Those are the only 5 true road games you have. And I mean, again, I know scheduling is different in the ACHA, but to be able to pull that off is another huge feat to this program of setting themselves up to be a winner.
Yeah, everybody loves home games. That's it's always fun too, because like I said, the crowd at the first game was pretty big, especially for, I don't want to knock on the ACHA, but having a crowd for an ACHA game isn't as easy to do for, let's say, an NCAA Division I school or anything to that standard. But when you have the credibility that they do, and even I would say too, I think it helps even having the ACHA Division I track record that they had before they went NCAA, because you kind of just have that recognition in ACHA hockey that you're the team to beat because you've won nationals. And I know it's a whole different division at that point, but they prove that they're not stopping. They're only getting better even after winning national championships. So I'm excited. I'm ready for next year. Let's see what next year's like already.
Cam's ready to raise another banner.
He really is, which is great to see, by the way, that they have banners at Centene, at Highland, and at Hunter. So, I mean, another piece that is showcasing the dominance that Lindenwood Sports is starting to get to is that you're starting to see banners go up. But
I wonder who came up with that.
I mean, again, there's been a lot of things that have popped up recently that have been talked about on this very show that have come to fruition. So, I don't know, but...
To be fair, at least for the hockey banner, that had to be ordered, I think, before our first episode, though. So
yeah, but the guy that's on this show that probably could have had an influence on that is sitting right there to, on my screen, it's to my right, but
yeah.
but something that, again, that we need to continue to help push is, you talk about the crowd that the ACHA program gets. That needs to translate to the NCAA side as well. And again, there's still ways to try and make that happen. And it's going to take a collective effort, but I haven't really dug deep into the connective tissue between, especially the ACHA and the NCAA schedules, but there's football games preceding some of these big games for the NCAA team. Obviously this weekend, it's a big time first place battle between the football team against Tennessee Tech. And then you've got that game against Denver after that. Again, finding ways to transport that football atmosphere over to the rink for that game could be huge. I mean, I know it's a very physical and demanding sport. I know that being out in what is going to be still a relatively warm day, people may not want to sit for another game. But if you could find a way to take those tailgated fans, take the football team, especially if they win. Good Lord, if they win that game against Tennessee Tech, a ranked team right now, and you bring that energy and excitement from that, and you bust that team over to the arena, we've seen what the football team does for basketball games. I mean, they are a raucous group, and they really get under the skin of some of these opponents. I don't care if they know a lick about hockey. Bring them over, stick them in that student section, and let them just heckle the heck out of this Denver team and create that atmosphere. Find a way to make it happen. And all of a sudden, that's what gets on social media. That's what a group that comes in from Denver goes, "Ooh, wow, this is cool. This is awesome. We want to be able to come play in this kind of environment because we know it's going to make our players rise up a little bit as well." So, again, we got to find those ways. And if there's an ACHA game before an NCAA game or even one after one, find a way to connect that and get players and fans to both games and support both programs. There's ways to make it happen. It's going to be tough. Yes, it is. And we know that a lot of us are stretched to our limits right now. But if we could find a way to build up those fan bases for those games, all of a sudden more money comes rolling in. And all of a sudden, maybe you're not as stretched to your limits as you used to be because you've got a stream of income coming in because you've got fans to these games and you put on a good showcase and the players see that as well. So taking my step off the soapbox and now back to you guys.
Well, yeah, there's plenty of double headers like this Saturday is going to be for fans to kind of catch, all of or parts of both games and everything. And I mean, Mike, you mentioned the football team. That's probably arguably the biggest game in Lindenwood football history for sure, with an opportunity to go out and
I mean, the SEMO game last year was pretty big because it's a rival, but this is a first place battle right now.
But you're playing for the conference.
Yeah. And you could be, if you win, you could be playing for it the next week against Gardner Webb as well. But that's ahead of myself.
Yeah. So, arguably one of the biggest football games ever for Lindenwood. But yeah, I mean, there's plenty of opportunities to get to Centene and, kind of combine crowds and everything too. And even with the women's program, they got a lot of double headers up against the men's programs as well. So one thing I think that really plays into the ACHA attendance is majority of the roster is from St. Louis. Mm-hmm. So a lot of the families come out, watch their families, friends. Some of the guys on that team are husbands, so that's also a factor there. But yeah, in hopefully too that is the case. I mean, obviously get the best player you can in a Lindenwood lineup, but one thing I'm hoping to see on the D1 side, if we swing it back that way, just for a second, is becoming that program where a lot of hometown guys that go off play juniors and maybe spend 3 or 4 years at wherever they get recruited to, maybe want to come back home and play a little bit more as the D1 team continues to build and rise. But yeah, I mean, they have a lot of guys from the local area, and that certainly plays into it as well. But plenty of opportunities to come see them, starting at 3:30 against the University of Tampa. Come over after the football game. Hopefully the football game is pretty quick Lindenwood win, and you can catch the end of the University of Tampa game, and then be in your seats right for start of the men against Denver.
Yeah, I know that we said this last time there was a football game going to a hockey game against Wisconsin. Obviously, it was the only other time that doing something like a group ticket option, or they had the buses. I know that, but if they can do something like that for the fans as well, like I know that was mainly towards students, but if they can incorporate that somehow, maybe separate buses, because who knows at that point. But but I would just say, just trying to bring everybody out. I know they're doing like a $6.36 ticket option for the football games, and that's a great deal to watch a ranked team and battle for first place in the conference. So they're really focusing on a lot of fan first things to get the fan first ideas to get the fans in the seats. I wish we would have maybe seen a little bit of a bigger crowd at Wisconsin, because I think the attendance average right now on USCHO or whatever that website is, I think it was like an 83% average over those two games. That's good, but a lot of the people also stand during those games. Like if you notice, like there's like you can't stand anywhere. That's the thing. So I'm sure it would have looked better if people were actually sitting in their seats, but I would have liked to a bit more. And I think that we bring a team in like Denver too. Oh, I had my connection thing, didn't I?
You froze for a moment.
No, so yeah. So my point is though is that getting those fans from the football game into the hockey game is something that can be done, and something that they kind of already did before with getting them there on Saturday, because there were quite a few students there on Saturday game too. Maybe not as much as Fridays because there wasn't a football game before, but like you said, it's going to be in like the 80s potentially. There for what we're in right now, so come cool off at the hockey rink. Off, maybe.
You see the camaraderie from the coaches of these teams. I mean, when Keith Fisher was introduced, I think every single coaching staff was at that press conference. So it's not like the teams don't support each other. Like the coaching staffs will support the other coaching staffs. And we see it, especially for games at Highland, whether it's basketball, and we've seen it for volleyball as well. You'll have teams come in, the soccer team, the basketball team, the football team, they're there. It's now figuring out a way, and it's because it's off campus, figuring out a way to get those teams to the games to support the hockey team. I mean, yes, hockey is looked at somewhat as a niche sport still, even in the hotbed of this area where people love hockey. But a lot of these athletes are from across the country where hockey's maybe not as popular. I guarantee you get some of these kids to a hockey game and they become lifelong fans, especially when they see what kind of, effort is put out there. You're going to have a whole bunch of fans that are going to be born from doing that. So again, these teams and these coaching staffs, they support each other. It's just because it's off campus that we've got to find a way to bring that over there to build that up, build the student support, build the camaraderie between the programs, and make that happen. And again, we talked a little bit about this, about getting bands into these games as well, whether it's high school bands or it's creating a sort of hockey pep band and having something there that brings that atmosphere. I mean, we see it with so many of these other hockey programs that it just brings a different level to the games when you have a live band there.
Oh, you're going to open a door here, aren't you?
I figured, you know what? We got a couple more minutes. Let's just open it up.
Oh, boy. I mean, all right. I'm gonna call it out. Is there not a way the school, I'm talking, the academic side of the school and the athletic department can work together and say, hey, look, there's already the main band that covers football and basketball and all this. If some of those students want to be a part of what I'm about to say, great. But rather than taking that band and saying, okay, now you have to do hockey too, have fun. Can we not create a group of 20 hockey pep banders that if you're a music major or if you have an instrument that you want to play, sign up, be a part of a hockey pep band. We'll get you, $1,000 off your tuition and go play at the hockey games. I mean, that's a lot of these schools that you just talked about, Mike. The hockey pep band is separate from the main band that's playing at football and basketball. It's usually a separate entity, but is there not any way to say, hey, we'll give, 20 kids off, $1,000 off? And look, that's $20,000 at the end of the day in the university budget. But I mean, I don't know. That's yeah.
Matt wants a band.
Well, it's just things like that. I mean, it's just the things like that it seems fairly easy to do. And then, okay, you have 20 built-in students per game that are there making noise. Okay, then maybe their friends want to come over and catch, maybe not every game, but catch game or two. And here's the key when we've talked about this student section is, I told you, you're going to open the door with this. We've been talking about getting the other teams there. And I'll apply this to all of Lindenwood sports, football, basketball, et cetera, et cetera. A big key for a student section is unlocking your non-student athletes because, they have their own schedules. They have their own athletic schedules. Ironically, the men's soccer team was also at Liberty this past weekend. So I don't know if ACHA hockey or men's soccer got out to one of those games, but they were all playing in Liberty this weekend. But anyway, they have their own schedule. So if you're just a regular student, you don't play a sport at Lindenwood, come on out, catch football, catch whatever's going on. Make your way over to some of these games and get into it because you're a student at Lindenwood and it's just a big thing is getting some of these non-student athletes to come out to games in bigger numbers and really fill out that student section so that when you have the other athletes, mixing in and out with their travel schedules, it's still pretty full. But I mean, man, there's got to be a way that somebody can create a hockey pep band on this campus, working together, cross departments, what have you. And Randy.
Yeah. Even being the DJ for the team, I'm not against it at all. We had it the home opener last year, and I thought it went pretty well. I think it was St. Charles West it was a high school band that was there, and I thought it went pretty well. And I remember when I did regionals 2 years ago now, I think it was, or maybe 3. Oh my God, I don't even know. But they had bands there for each school, I think, except for North Dakota, and it just it adds to that college hockey atmosphere that I think is I kind of missing, I would say, from Lindenwood is the band. And not every school has it, but the ones that do, it makes it feel like college hockey. Like one of the things when I was younger, I don't remember too much of it, but I played a hockey tournament at Notre Dame, and we went to one of the games. And I just remember, like, our seats were good, but it was right next to the band, and it was so loud. But that's just totally different because it was a big, huge band.
It was at that point Cam said, "I'm gonna be a DJ."
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I don't even know if I even knew what music was at that age. But it like I said, it adds to that college hockey atmosphere. That I think it's one of those components that's missing from Lindenwood. Is making it feel like that college, the student section, and then the band along with it. I think is one of the two things that I think are missing.
In no way are we trying to put DJ Cam out of a job.
Yeah.
There's definitely a place for a DJ and a band at hockey games. Yes, someone does have to hit the goal horn.
It takes coordination where you have the band do, their session on a face-off, and then Cam, pumps the tunes next face-off. It takes some coordination there, but you get it down. Also, I want to say, if you're coming to join the student section, to join the uproar, stand up, have a good time, heckle the opposing team in a respectable way. The students that took the bus over for that Wisconsin series were, hey, great, welcome to Centene, but little too quiet over there, a little too much sitting down during the play. Stand up, have a good time.
That's on me. I didn't give him something to stand for.
No, but I mean, you
need to do what St. Louis City does for their supporter section. You got to find a way, lock the seats in that section to not go down, force them to stand the entire game. That's what you have to do.
I like it.
Yeah. Well, where the student section is kind of off to the side of the bench, those seats are fixed. The end on Lindenwood's defensive zone for the first and third period, those seats do flatten out, but they don't get they only flatten because those bleachers can roll in. So they're still there.
I never knew that.
Yeah. They've never been, they've only been rolled back, like, I think one time ever since the arena opened. But they're still there. So then you can't really, I don't know. They don't really come out fully. They just flatten down so the bleachers can roll in. Would have been nice if there were just regular bleacher seating. Not that I'm saying the students don't deserve a good chair back, but makes it easier bleachers, for that standing room only.
Bleachers make you stand a little bit because you don't want to sit on that for very, very long. So, all right. Well, we're coming up on 2 hours here. We should probably let you guys enjoy the rest of your night. Do want to touch quickly on the women's ACHA team. Had a really unique game the other night against McKendree. It was a midnight puck drop that was a lot of fun. You see that has become a little bit of a trend across not just hockey, but you see it with, midnight basketball tip-offs and things of that nature. So that was a really cool, unique experience for both those programs to have that back on Friday night. It was a 7-0 win by McKendree. So Lions still searching for that first win of the season, 0-7. They've only scored 2 goals this year. Both those came in that game against Miami University or Miami of Ohio. So they're still trying to figure out this squad this year. They head out to Liberty. This is the weekend that they're heading out. They're heading out to Liberty on the 17th and 18th before coming back home on the 30th against McKendree. So make sure you go and check them out. It's a Thursday afternoon game on the night before Halloween. So that should be a good day to play hooky, to go see some hockey. So make sure you get out there and check them out as well as they try to continue to build after the loss of a couple of high-end seniors and graduates after last year.
Yeah, it'd be good for them, I think, to head out on the road. Most their games have all been kind of here in the area, at least. So kind of what I said about the series for Lake Superior State with the men's team. Get out on the bus, kind of build that sometimes those teams are built on buses, and this gives you a chance to go out and do that coming up, and you take on another tough team in Liberty, but maybe take some pressure off from being at home for a little bit is a good thing.
You left me speechless. You said everything I was going to say, and I didn't. So.
I just say it again.
It always is kind of a good thing. It's kind of weird to say, but like whenever you go on a road game or even coming back home for the first time, it kind of is like a breath of fresh air at the same time, because you're not playing where you're not necessarily familiar with because you haven't played there yet in the season. So it can kind of give you like a new mindset, like a refresh. And I know I said it earlier too. You got to forget about the record. You got to forget about the games prior. You got to move on. I know it's kind of hard too, because I was also on like a losing team. One of my years I played, and it was kind of hard to move on from being, sucking is what I should say for my team. That's why I'm saying it for my team. But you just have to move on past it, and you got to keep playing. You got to keep tuning up what's going on in practice. Film what's going good, what's not working. You just gotta. It's gonna build throughout the year, and it's just kind of one of those processes that it takes a while, but it'll get there at some point.
Yep, it certainly will. I mean, you're not going to be successful every single year. You got to have to restock sometimes, and that's exactly what this ACHA women's team is doing right now. They're restocking and trying to find the next stretch of where they're going to be successful. So, yeah, lots of hockey coming up here for all 4 of these programs. Make sure you get out this weekend, Friday and Saturday night over at Centene. Check out the men against number 5 Denver. All 3 of us are going to be there, so make sure you come by, say hi, razz us a little bit, tell us how good or bad we are doing on the show, on the broadcast, whatever you want to do. Just make sure you stop by and say hi. Final thoughts from you guys before we head out tonight.
Looking forward to a good weekend of hockey. I'm going to try to make a stop over at football, at least for a little bit before that first game against the University of Tampa, because I'd like to catch a little bit of that. And same thing.
Don't feel like you have to. You'll hear me on PA. Don't feel like you have to come. It's all right.
Well, that's going to come heckle you.
Yeah. I just slide down about 20 feet. So that'll be a good one. I'm looking forward to this Tampa team. They're kind of an unknown commodity. I mean, not to knock the ACHA a bit, but their top scorers on the stats page only have 2 points, but their schedule on the University of Tampa hockey website has them winning 5-1, 9-1, 3-2, and 9-2 against teams that they've played. So stats are kind of nowhere to be found, but hey, I can't say anything because Giovanni Morneau's first goal as a Lion is just missing.
It's in the nether.
Yeah, it's somewhere, but not here. But yeah, they're kind of an unknown commodity. First year back in the ACHA for them coming out of College Hockey South, and Lindenwood is the only college hockey federation, I should say, team that they play, and there's not many that are outside of College Hockey South that they play. So it'll be interesting because they've had some lopsided wins for themselves, but yeah, we'll see how the games go this weekend. But I'm looking forward to those. Well, Saturday, Sunday for them.
Can you guys still hear me? Because my AirPods died.
Yes, you're good.
Okay.
We got you.
Good. Okay, so come early on Saturday because I have a new warm-up. Friday one, I've had this one already. I played it already this year, but Saturday's a new one, so come on out. I always like to see when people come out. I know it's not for me, but I just like to play my warm-up. So come on out for that. That's all I got. I got to go get a haircut.
Well, go get the haircut this week.
Yep.
Matt, Cam, we'll see you guys on Friday and Saturday for these games against Denver. And then make sure you guys come back and check out our next episode of the Frozen War. We'll be recapping all the games that have taken place between shows and kind of continue to pump up all 4 of these programs for Lindenwood. Again, for Matt, for Cam, I'm Mike. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you soon.